Walking down the streets of London in the late autumn of 1683. Now don't get me wrong, this is not an idyllic. You're not stepping on a bluestone slab. It was mixed with horse manure, the sticky mud of garbage and rain. There's a lingering smell in the air. That's in thousands of fireplaces. Soot from burning cheap sea coal. Mixed with leather. The complex odor of sweat and untreated sewage. You la cape. Trying to keep that choking smell out. But it's just futile. The city is like a shiny exterior. Anxious lady. Just a few months ago, a game called Ricci, the assassination plan of the Ukrainian conspiracy, was foiled. The target is the present-day King Charles II and his less popular Catholic brother, James, Duke of York. The conspiracy is still unresolved against Beau. The air is full of suspicion and fear. When you pass by the pub, you can hear the people inside talking in low voices. Words float in the air like ghosts. Grey Tories treason. Several leaders of the Grey Grid Party in the Tower of London, those who firmly oppose the Tianjin Christians, James, successor gentlemen. Some have been sent to the guillotine. Others were forced into exile. King Charles II, the man who dissolved Parliament 2 years ago, the monarch who starts to take power alone. I purged myself with an iron fist. Replacement of judges and sheriffs. Make sure the jury in the courtroom, composed of his people, to convict the opponent. This tense atmosphere makes you feel like you have to breathe carefully. However, when you look up in the direction of the palace of the day, it's a different story. There is music every night, full of extravagant parties, masquerades and endless gambling. King Charles II. They called him the Merry Monarch. Because he is personable. Love art and science. Learn to love beautiful women and pleasure. The number of mistresses and illegitimate children he openly admitted
Enough
to form a small army. Please, the seriousness and prohibition of Cromwell's reign. Desire, the glitz and release that has long been brought back by this king. Vertically initialized. Theater reopens. The actress took the stage for the first time. The cafe is full of people from all walks of life. The king and his courtiers, even past the poor in the park. It's a paradoxical time. On the one hand, there is political coercion and aggression. Everyone is in danger. On the other hand, the obsession with court life. As if blind to the looming crisis. You're walking down the street, you can feel both at the same time, however, different smells. This feeling is strange. Like a person holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. I have to mention here. In fact, the first 2 town parties in England, the names of the fighters and the Tories. All from insulting nicknames. Those who support exclusion bills. Those who tried to stop James from succeeding. Known as the Fage. This word was originally used to mocking rioting Scottish Presbyterians. And those who think exclusion bills are giveaways. Support the past. They're called Tories. The word originally, it refers to those who have been dispossessed of their Irish land. Catholic bandits. So, it was the highest political debate in Britain. Essentially a Scottish traitor. And the Irish robber. History is sometimes so humorous. You keep going. A cold wind blows. It gives you the chills. The wind carries an unusual meaning. Abiding. What does it portend? You looked up at the grey sky. I have a hunch. London held this tone. It may soon be replaced by a more powerful. The force of nature broke. The political winter has arrived. And the winter weather seems to be on its way. November ends quietly. The meaning you feel. No longer an occasional sneak attack, it became a constant siege. Every morning. The first breath you take when you wake up will condense into a white mist in the air. A thin layer was knotted on the window. Ice flowers in the shape of leaves of pests. No matter how much the fire in the house burns, can't melt them completely. You walked down the street, and found that the puddles had formed a hard shell. The carriage makes a crisp sound as it passes by. The way people dress has changed, wrapped up like moving blankets. The only thing on his face was his red nose. And a pair of eyes. It's not just London that's getting cold. You are from those who have just arrived from mainland Europe. In the mouth
Europe.
of the returning merchant.
Learned.
The whole of Europe seems to have been thrown into an ice cellar. The French soldiers complained that their wine page. You sawed off the ice with a saw. Mediterranean port. It was frozen until late spring. The ice of the Danube. Taking into account the behavior that can withstand the rectification of Jeonju. This is no ordinary winter. It's a deeper, a more permanent cold. You were like all Londoners at the time. I don't know that I am in a situation. The special climate stage known as the soldier's wife by later generations. This is from about the 14th century. It lasted until the mid-19th century, global cooling period. It reached a cold peak in the 17th century. Global average temperature probably only down 0.5 to 1 degree Celsius. But this tiny change, enough to turn the whole world upside down. At that time, no one can explain the sudden cold. Most of what you hear is from the church. This is God's punishment. It is a symbol of the great sins of mankind. Every cold snap, furniture or from a village. When the message of no receipt of particles, there will be a massive confession parade in the city. People kneel on the icy stone pavement. Pray for God's forgiveness. At the same time, another, darker explanation is also quietly circulating. It's witches. People believe. It was the witch who cast evil magic. Stole the summer sun. Destroyed the crops in the field. So in some parts of Europe, pray action gets crazier. You walk down the streets of London, which are getting colder and colder. I feel that the weather is getting more and more abnormal. And now as December approaches, the cold seems to be gaining strength. Prepare to give the city that is already full of unrest a most severe test. You start to look at the grey one in the city frequently. The great river of life, the Thames River. Can it withstand the cold? December is here. With an unquestionable resolve. The cold wind blows like a knife across the Thai Samurai River. Roll up the grey river. Flapping the stone steps on both sides. You go to the river every day. It's like witnessing the slow death of a giant. At first it was just a thin layer of ice on the banks of the river. It's like setting a riverbank, fragile lace. Boatmen paddle past. There will be a rustling broken god. But soon the ice was getting thicker and thicker. Like core eyes. Then, you saw what the client called fuse. That's not a whole block of ice, but big and small. Ice cubes of different shapes. Like a flock of white sheep. Crowded and collided in the grey river. Downstream. Your gaze. It was involuntarily blocked by the downstream
Attracted
building. By magnificent buildings. Old London Bridge. It's more than just a bridge. It is a symbol of the city. It also led to the following miracle. Or a key player in the disaster. This stone bridge dating from 1209. Completely different from today's bridges. It has 19 very dense arches. Supporting the heavy piers. These piers. There are also huge wooden protective structures underwater. It's called zhuangkun. This allows the passage under each bridge arch. Are unusually narrow. In normal times, this design has seriously hindered the Thames, the normal flow of the river. Like a giant comb in a river channel. And now he's the king who captured the ambush. You saw with your own eyes the ambushes floating upstream. Piece by piece. Stuck between narrow bridge arches. They pile up and squeeze. Soon a huge ice dam formed. This ice dam completely changed the fate of the river. It makes the river upstream. The tassel becomes extremely slow, almost stagnant. He also effectively blocks the rising tide. It poured in from the mouth of the sea. High salinity seawater. You have to understand that. The Thai Samurai River in the 17th century. Very different from today. Victorian low-shore engineering in the 19th century. Before construction. The Thai Samurai is much wider. Much shallower. River flow is inherently slow. Now, under the influence of the accomplice of Old London Bridge, this broad and slow, low salt river. It becomes a perfect natural ice tray. The process of freezing is gradual, but unstoppable. First, the water near the piers is completely frozen, then the ice surface is like white cancer cells. Spreading wildly from both sides to the core. The ferry that those people are risking to operate, The situation is getting more and more dangerous. You stand on the shore, frightened to see a scene. A small ferry full of passengers, while trying to cross the ambush zone, hit by a huge block of ice. The hull leans immediately. Cold river water pours in. The people on the boat screamed in horror. The angle then sinks into the water. This is the dying river. The first well-known warning issued. By the end of December, there is only one last line left in the middle of the river. The narrow channel is still flowing. But his fate was sealed. After another cold night, you come to the river again. Found his last. The stream of struggling water has also disappeared. The entire Thames, from London Bridge to Westminster, became a vast expanse. Dead, uneven white plain. The hustle and bustle of the past. The boatman's name is Mansion. Huashui of the paddle. The Mingjiao gods of the water birds have all disappeared. In its place is a tricky. It was apocalyptic silence. A few days in early January, the Thames is like a giant painting. Still painting. People just stand on the shore, at a safe distance. And I looked at it with curiosity and awe. The edges are too wide. So unfamiliar. So that no one dares to be the first to set foot on it. He is like the surface of the moon. Beautiful and full of unknowns. People need a signal. A license. A proof that the new continent is safe. The signal arrived on January 5th. That afternoon, you and Chenbai, thousands of Londoners gathered on the riverbank. Watch a daring gamble. A wealthy gentleman made a bet that his 6 horses, the car can run safely on the ice. Back to this, it sounded crazy at the time. The weight of the horse and carriage, plus the impact when running. Who can guarantee that the ice will not suddenly crack? You hold your breath. The coachman raised the whip. 6 tall horses start to step on the military surface cautiously. Horseshoes make a strange sound on the ice. Dull percussion god. And they started trotting. And then full speed. The wheels are rolling. Left 2 clear creases on the back. The carriage rushed from one bank of the river to the other, then reversed direction. Rushed back again. When the carriage finally returned safely to its starting point, there were thunderous cheers on the shore. This image is like a key. Instantly opened the lock in everyone's heart. The fear disappears. Instead, it is a unquenchable excitement and curiosity. If all 6 carriages could fly on it. What is the weight of that person? So you join the crowd. You see the first bold people. He carefully descended the steps on the riverbank. On the ice. The feeling under my feet is strange. Hard but uneven. Like walking on rough glass. You follow them step by step towards the middle of the river. When you stand in the middle of the Thames. When I look around. An unprecedented feeling. Sleep for you. You've never seen London from this angle. Buildings on both sides of the strait, those familiar churches, spire and wharf warehouse. They all take on an unfamiliar and magnificent silhouette. You don't feel like you're on a river. But in a brand new, independent country. Pretty soon. There's one on the ice. Trampled by thousands of pairs of feet. Clear and discernible small scene. It snakes up from London Bridge to Whitehall. This became the latest in London, the trendiest pedestrian street. People are walking and chatting on it. Show off your new dongy. As if it were the most normal thing in the world. And you get something even more curious. Several young people are playing a game on the ice, trendy game. They have a strange skates made of bone or metal. The word skate was not yet uniform at the time, because this sport is for the majority of Britons. Still fresh. This is Charles II, and his court members were exiled from the Netherlands. Fashion stuff I brought back when I came back. You watch them glide so fast on the ice. Elegant posture. Swift action. Skimming across the ice like a bird. Draw applause. This is the first time you've seen ice skating. This sport will continue to thrive in the coming centuries, will become the most iconic symbol of ice activity. You are standing on ice. Feel the firmness under my feet. The carriage gamble. It's like a ritual. Announced the Londoners. The conquest of this frozen river. You have a strong premonition. The show has just begun. And those who are frozen by rivers. And the people who get into trouble first. Also gearing up. Ready on this blank sheet of paper. Draw the most unexpected patterns. Behind this national carnival. There is a group of moods that are mixed. That's the boatmen on the Thai Samurai River. For them, a frozen river is not a wonder. It's doomsday. You are one of them now. Your little ferry is frozen to the shore. Like insects in a lake. You used to rely on it. Transporting passengers and goods between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait at a time. The Thai Samurai River is your field. Your store. Your life infra. And now that life infra. You are not suffering alone. In the 17th century, the Thames is the most important river in London, the busiest traffic. Its status far exceeds those narrow muddy roads. According to a man named John at that time, Taylor's Ancient Book of Sailor Poets. There are about 40,000 people in London directly or indirectly. They live off this river. That's a staggering number. When the river stops, it means 40,000 families' livelihood, cut off in an instant. You are like any other boatman. Standing on the shore every day. Look at the white ice. Heart full of despair. But it's in the DNA of Londoners. It seems to be forever engraved with the words random response. The despair did not last long. It was a bold. Replaced by almost helpless business acumen. As you see more and more people take an ice walk. While playing, an idea spreads quickly among you. Since river crossings cannot be charged on the water, why can't tolls be collected on ice? The idea is nothing short of genius. You boatmen. Generations have believed this river is your chassis. So you sprang into action. You and the other boaters. At every major point leading to the river, steps and ferry, have set up toll booths. There you stand. Straightened to every city that wants to step on the ice. People charge several identification tickets. Your logic is simple. This is our workplace. You have to pay when you come in and play. Surprisingly, the citizens didn't seem to object. I thought it was funny. Make this trip on ice more like a formal life. After receiving the money, you also played the roles of guides and security guards. Guide people to the last places on the ice. Warn them to stay away from dangerous areas. Immediately after, your creativity is further stimulated. You see a smart colleague. Cut his little ferry out of the ice. Flip it over and put on a simple skateboard, turned into a sled that can glide on ice. Then he started soliciting business. Pay, pull those gentlemen and ladies who are too lazy to walk. Excursion on ice. This idea was immediately copied by everyone. Pretty soon, all kinds of cruise ships appear on the ice. Modified coasting tool. You unemployed boatmen have been transformed. Become a taxi driver on ice. You were still among the first people to do business on ice. At the end of December, when most people, or just using the ice as a place to walk, you're already hitching a ride on the ice near the shore. The first humble tents and stalls were erected. You sell hot beer, roasted chestnuts, and some warm-up snacks. Your actions, like a stone thrown into a calm lake. It sent huge ripples. Other vendors see your success. They follow suit. So an unprecedented ice festival. Just like this, in your destitute boats. Driven by my husband, it kicked off. The 6-carriage gamble. Want to start the gun? After the gunshot, all of London is reclaimed from the Thames. In just a few days, you have witnessed the birth of a city with your own eyes. This is not Jasper. This is a real building with streets and shops. City with inhabitants. No more chaotic crowds on the ice. It was planning. Vendors spontaneously, or under the guidance of boaters, put their tent. And the wooden stalls lined up. Streets are formed. One of the most important, the widest one is called Main Street. He's from the townhouse on the London side. All the way to Nanhuake on the other side. You walk down this icy road. On both sides are zero-time ratio stores. Under my feet is hard ice. It feels both absurd and real. You hear the hammer hitting the wood. Saw merchants using sledges, dragging boxes of goods. Difficult march on ice. This city on ice even has an unofficial name. It's called the Blanket Fair. The origin of this name is no longer known. Maybe it's because vendors use thick blankets to set up tents. Or maybe he's like a giant blanket. It covers the entire river. You start walking through this frozen city. Explore every corner of him. You find this is a perfect replica of London on shore. More than that. Can you find someone who sells fruit? Shoe seller, bookseller. There are even barbers shaving people in tents. Of course, pubs are essential. They were called the most expensive tents. It's always packed with people, singing out loud, drinking strong wine that dispels the cold. And what you find most incredible is fire. You can see that almost every tent has a brazier for heating. And here's what's even more dramatic: some food stalls. There was a campfire raging directly over the ice for barbecues and soups. You step forward. He carefully stepped on it with his foot. Ice by the fire, it feels solid. According to the measurements of some good people at the time, the thickness of the ice in central London reached a staggering 11 inches. That's about 28 centimeters. Such thickness, enough to withstand the heat of a campfire without melting. Fire and ice are two diametrically opposed elements. Coexist in a harmonious way at the moment. Consists of the strangest ice extravaganza. The most memorable sight. You walk. I even saw an Iron River pavilion. Blacksmith moved his needles and beehives to the ice. Clanging iron. Mars like an arrow. Fall on the ice. Make a sizzling sound. Then quickly extinguished. This scene makes you believe Londoners can really put anywhere. Have become their workshops and markets. You keep wearing it in the city where the rangers save. Okay, you see the children are specially opening up, chasing in the alley. Playful couples walk hand in hand down Main Street. Vendors are eager to accept their goods from you. The vitality of London. It seems that from those dark and narrow streets, transferred to this open, bright ice sheet. There's no mud. No crowded carriages. Only fresh and cold air. And a sense of freedom like never before. Then you are attracted by a strong aroma. It's a mixture of grease. The smell of charcoal and spices, overbearing through the cold air. You follow the fragrance. Through the crowd. Saw one of the most spectacular sights of the ice festival. Roast whole beef on ice near the Palace of the Day. People dug a big hole. A huge bonfire was lit. A complete bull with an iron swab. Turning slowly on the flame. Grease drips on the charcoal fire. Make a xylite sound. There were puffs of blue smoke. Cooks use long-handled spoons. Keep adding the sauce. Poured on the roasted burnt cowhide. It's not just about cooking, it's a show. A public perception of the cold. People form a circle. Excited pointing. Waiting to share this feast on ice. You squeeze in. Spend a few minutes. Bought a steaming slice of roast beef. The meat may be a bit hard. The smell of smoke and fire is also a bit heavy. But in this freezing environment, can eat a mouthful of piping hot fat-filled meat. It is an unparalleled happiness. After eating barbecue, you feel a warmth in your body. But not enough, therefore. You crawl into a lively drunk tent next to you. The tent is warm as spring. Ale in the air. Blend of gin and mulled wine. People huddled around long wooden tables, laugh out loud. Playing the Civ game. You ordered a hot beer. The sweetness of malt and the burning sensation of alcohol slide down the throat. Instantly dispels the meaning of your limbs. After warming up, you're back outside in the ice and snow. Prepare to experience the entertainment here. You hear a wooden ball coming from a distance. The crisp sound of impact. It turned out to be a group of people playing bottle bowling. Fairway. It's a flat piece of ice that's just cleaned up. People fall funny on it. Draws roars. In another corner, a puppet troupe set up a small stage. There's a play going on about the king and dragons. The kids couldn't take their eyes off it. Distant. There is also an intense football match going on. It wasn't so much a game. It was more of a melee. Dozens of people are chasing a ball, rolling and climbing on ice. Just when you are when dazzled by the lively scene. You notice a long queue in one place. You are curious to walk over. The crowd was surrounded by a huge black machine. A printing press. How did this thing end up on the ice? A printer named George Crumb came up with a wonderful figure. He put his own printing press, moved to the ice of the Taiwo River. Create unique souvenirs for visitors on site. You waited in line for half a day. Finally, it's your turn. You paid for it 6 times. That wasn't cheap at the time. Then tell Mr. Crumb your name. He skillfully cut out thousands of words from the word plate. Line up and put it in the printing press. Then press hard. A small card is handed to you. It has your name printed on it, the date of the day, and a line of text that makes your heart skip a beat. Printed on the Samurai River in 1684. You had this card that smelled of ink. I feel as if I have a piece of history in my hands. This little souvenir. Prove that you were a part of this miracle. It was a big hit. It is said that Mr. Crumb earns £5 a day. That's 10 times the average worker's weekly wage. You took that precious card. Put it carefully in your arms. Continue to move through the crowd. You feel like a child. Broke into a huge surprise amusement park. There is something new around every corner. Every sound is full of life force. This city on ice not only has food, some drink and some play. It can even let you put a paragraph, unique memory, fog into a piece of paper that can be treasured forever. It's just perfect. And it's on the ice that the event is in full swing. When almost all Londoners go crazy about it. And there was a message that brought the party to a head. The king is coming. You are squeezed into the crowd. Watch a funny ice race. Suddenly I heard a commotion in the distance. The crowd was like Moses dividing the sea, automatically gave up a channel. You stand on tiptoe. Saw a group of well-dressed people. Under the guard. Coming from the direction of the daytime palace, headed by the merry monarch Charles XX himself. By his side is his queen, Catherine of Braganza. The arrival of the king, to this already bustling market, granted an officially certified legendary aura. The palace of Charlie XX. It's by the Taiwo River. He goes from, you can see the ice growing from the window, a spectacular sight, maybe out of curiosity. Maybe you want to experience this unprecedented folk. He decided to go down in person. You watch the king and his party walk on the ice. It was surreal. The crowned monarch. Just like you now. The same ice is under your feet. He looked at the shops on both sides with great interest, for those humble tents, and a wide variety of products, show great interest. He stopped in front of a stall selling hot gin. Chatted with the stall owner. Even tasted a small glass. The surrounding people erupted into loud cheers. The king's people-friendly gesture made people feel incomparable. Excited then. You see the king being printed by that famous. The machine attracts the past. He also joined the queue. Of course the team made way for him. You have witnessed this historic scene with your own eyes. King Charles II. Like an ordinary tourist. Paid printers George Crumb 6 times. Customized a commemorative card of his own. You can imagine. That card says Charlie Stewart. Printed on the Thai Samurai River. This small act instantly made Crumb's print beach worth 100-fold. It became the whole ice festival. The most talked about consciousness. The king's tour is not over yet. He also brought the queen. And walked over to the whole cow that was being roasted. The chef respectfully cut off the best piece of meat. Presented to the king and queen. They are in full view. Tasted this Indian dish from the ice. It's not just about tasting food. This is a strong symbol of the town system. The king participated in this civil war. There's even some disorganized activity, shows his gesture of rejoicing with the people. Closer to ordinary people. This ice market. It is no longer just a market or a playground. He became a magical stage. A social hierarchy. Temporarily blurred strange space. Here boatmen can charge nobles. Printers can do business with kings. The commoners could share a roast cow with the monarch. Destruction of the Thai Samurai River. There seems to be a magic. Let those boundaries that are insurmountable on land becomes less important. However, in this seemingly harmonious, beneath the joyous white carnival, also hidden in the rough to match 17th century London. Dangerous and dark. As you recover from the excitement of the king's arrival, start exploring the edge of this icy city. When you strip, you will see a different scene. A savage roar. And the wild shouts of the crowd lead you to a wooden place, a fenced-off area. You look through the cracks. I saw a scene that made your stomach churn. Bullfight. An angry bull is chained to a post. Several fierce hounds were lunging at him frantically. Bite his nose and neck. The bull used his feet to hold a hound. Jump into the air. This was a very popular one at the time. But there is an extremely cruel and bloody movement. The ice is splattered with blood. In stark contrast to the white ice and snow. There are other entertainment activities not far away. Like fox hunting. People on relatively open ice. Chasing a poor fox. There is also a game called Extreme. A rooster is tied to a post. People took turns stealing from him with sticks. Until you crush him to death. Cruelty that seems unimaginable today. Act. It was a common pastime at the time. Except for these legal cruelties. Illegal party formation. I also found my own soil here. You pass by some tents. I could hear a heated argument coming from inside. The sound of colliding with a sieve. These are unlicensed casinos. The famous diarist John Evelyn. When describing even, he used alcohol and other forms of prostitution. Words like swinging place. Hints at the sex trade that exists here. And criminal activity. The dust on the ice. It's like a lawless place with no cops. Human desire and the dark side, released here without any scruples. Certainly. The greatest danger still comes from beneath your feet. Although the ice is up to 11 inches thick. But it's ice after all. Not stone. All winter long. The ice is covered with cracks large and small. And some water that's not completely frozen. You can hear it all the time. The ice is under the weight of thousands of people. Send out disturbing figures and shattering gods. If you're not careful, someone can slip and fall. Even falling into ice holes. And these dark sides have also sparked some controversy. And that was the Ice Festival. To what extent? A true integration of social classes. He really is a king. A utopia of fun with beggars? Or say, class differences are just a new form. It was replicated on ice. Despite the common wonders and dangers, it does break down barriers to a certain extent. Creates a fleeting sense of community. But actually, the rich may still be safer. More comfortable area. Enjoy more refined entertainment. Poor people tend to be more involved in the boorish. Dangerous activities, like bullfighting and gambling. This problem is like an undercurrent under the ice. Complex and elusive. You left those noisy and bloody corners. Back to the protagonist of relative civilization. Looking at the elated crowd around me. You feel a little more awake. And when you sink, while immersed in the strange charm of the ice society, you may temporarily forget. This severe cold has affected the city of London beyond the ice. What does it mean? Now, let's leave this lively white plain. Walk back to shore. To feel it. Another face of the city in the depths of winter. As soon as you step on land, immediately you will be surrounded by a thick plume of smoke. The air is no longer the clear cold on the ice. It's kind of choking. Sulfurous stain. Due to the Thames being frozen. Ships transporting firewood and high-quality coal. Inability to enter the port of London. Fuel prices skyrocket. The citizens had to settle for the next best thing. Burn the cheapest and worst quality sea coal for heating. This sea coal burning, when burned, a large amount of black smoke and toxic gases are produced. And in extremely cold weather. Due to abnormal air pressure, these fumes cannot spread to the body. It's like a heavy, greasy blanket. Heavy pressure on the earth. Journalist John Evelyn. It's a vivid description of what happened. London is shrouded in the plum smoke curiosities of Jamie. The smoke tunnel makes it almost impossible to see across the street. The air is filled with coarse particles. Inhaling into the lungs makes the chest feel stuffy. I could barely breathe. This can be said to be later Victoria, the famous London of the era, an early prophecy of things. In this harsh environment, it started spreading. That winter, smallpox was unusually deadly in London, took many lives. Foul air inadvertently exacerbates the spread of respiratory diseases. Severe cold. It paralyzed the entire city infrastructure. The pipes are frozen solid. Water supply was completely cut off in many areas. This means that people not only lack access to drinking water, even firefighting has become a big problem. Brewery, laundry and many other industries that rely on water, also forced to stop work. The economy of London as a whole, and like his river, came to a standstill. The port is locked by soldiers. All import and export trade came to an abrupt halt. This is for cities where business is the lifeblood, is a fatal blow. For the rich, it's just a few inconveniences in life. They can buy it at a premium, hiding in a warm mansion. But for the poor, so this is an existential crisis. You're walking down the streets of a slum. It was heartbreaking. People huddled in homes without fires, wrapped in every fabric you can find, shivering. Food became scarce and expensive. A lot of people facing the double torment of hunger and cold. Although King Charles II ordered a collection for the poor, but for the huge poor, just a drop in the bucket. The exuberance of the ice festival and the suffering on the shore. Such a stark and brutal contrast. When you drink hot wine on ice, while watching the performance, maybe in some alley a few hundred meters away. Some people just can't afford a lump of coal and slowly freeze. You stand on the shore, looking back at the bright lights on the ice. City of laughter. Look at the cold silence around you. Streets full of suffering. You suddenly understand. Ice society is more than just a carnival. It's also an escape. It's anesthesia. It's like a huge beautiful dream. So that people can temporarily forget the cruelty of reality. Londoners put their optimism, tenacity and creativity, poured on that ice. But outside the dream, this great city, shivering painfully in the cold. And it's on the ice that the extravaganza reaches its climax. Everyone thinks, this ice and snow, the wonders will last until spring. Nature played a dangerous joke on January 15th. You're walking down the ice. I suddenly felt something strange. The air seems less biting. The wind has also softened a bit. You see a tent on top. Drop of water. Sprinkle on ice. Leave a small dark mark. At first you didn't care. But soon, and you find that more and more people are stopping. Look up at the sky. A confused and uneasy expression on his face. The thaw has begun. He came so suddenly. There was no warning. Tiny cracks began to appear on the ice, spread like a spider's web. And then the whole river started shaking. A thunderous sound comes from beneath your feet, shaking your internal organs. Panic spreading through the crowd like a plague. People who were still laughing a second ago. The next second there was utter chaos. You got caught up in a crazy crowd. Everyone is desperately running towards the shore. Vendors are engaged in a race against time. They scrambled to get back into their fire stalls before the river wakes up completely. Rescue the goods back to shore. You see a stall selling pottery paint, looking at his carefully built store in despair. Floated away with a huge ambush. It's filled with all his belongings. The scariest thing is, black holes began to appear on the ice. That's melted ice water and reflowing river water. These deadly traps, devouring a few unfortunate people in the chaos. The records at the time simply mention the death of the tree man. But behind these cold words, it's a tragedy for several families. You see with your own eyes the ice suddenly collapses under a person's feet. He only had time to let out a short scream. Disappeared into the icy black water. The entire ice minister, It collapsed in a matter of hours. That busy street. Those busy shops have disappeared without a trace. Thai European monk. Only a few broken ambushes remain. And people who are still in shock. Everyone thought this grand dream. And it ended in a nightmare. However, nature didn't seem to think the joke was big enough. This sudden thaw. It only lasted 3 short days. Come January 19th. The wind is changing again. One is stronger. A more biting cold snap is returning from the north. The temperature plummeted. Those newly melted waters. Refrozen at a rate visible to the naked eye. This time the ice is stronger than before. More thoroughly you stand on the shore. It looks like it's refrozen and flatter than before. Stronger river surface. Mixed feelings. This dangerous episode. Like a severe test. He uses the most direct way. Reminded all Londoners. The land beneath their feet. How fragile and unpredictable. But he also proved that. How stubborn and powerful this cold is. You have a feeling. Londoners will not stop there. They've just been through a scare. But their courage and creativity. About to be reignited. And it will burn more vigorously than before. That brief thaw. Like a basin of cold water, on the heads of all the revelers. But it was followed by a more violent freeze. Like a season of boosters. Let people's confidence rise like never before, if even such a thaw can survive. Then refreeze to make it stronger. So what's there to be afraid of? So the kidney on the ice will be reborn. And this time he's even bolder. Grander. It is full of the kind of man after conquering nature. A confidence bordering on arrogance. People are no longer content with makeshift tents and humble wooden stalls. You see some vendors starting to build stronger, more complex semi-permanent buildings. Confidence exploded. Even started speaking openly. The freeze will continue until March. In this atmosphere of extreme confidence, there are some jaw-dropping bets. You heard a wealthy businessperson publicly announce he wants to make a bet. He could build one on the ice. A 2 to 3-story wooden house. Sleep soundly in it for a night. Then remove it safely before thawing. This gamble attracted countless onlookers and fans. Note that he perfectly embodies the kind of people at that time. Human optimism. You step into this magnificent city on ice again. Found out that he has been upgraded. Streets are being cleaned up and leveled. The shops on both sides are also more dazzling. Entertainment has also become more varied. You even saw one that made you afraid. Trust what's in your eyes. A carriage that can move itself on ice. He has no horse, no one pushed. But it glides smoothly on the ice. If you are curious, come forward. Only to learn from his master. This automatic carriage is made up of a huge clockwork spring driven on the well. In the 17th century, this mechanical device is like magic. Attracted everyone's onlookers and amazement. This event after rebirth. Its grandeur. Even King Charles II was amazed by it. From the window of the White Pavilion Palace, look at this piece than before, a more prosperous iceberg city. Gave an order. He asked the court painter. Draw a panoramic picture of the event. To bring this unique sight. Record it permanently. Pass down to future generations. The king's decision. It means this folk carnival has been promoted to the national level, the height of a historical event. And we're seeing several of them right now. Oil painting depicting the ice pageant of 1684. The most famous of these included Abraham. The works of Red Dios and Jamvik. Their paintings. It vividly recreates the situation at that time. You stand in the crowd. Look at that car. The magic clockwork carriage passes in front of you. Listen to the lively discussion about the house building bet. Feel the fearlessness in the air. An atmosphere of extreme optimism. What do you think of this ice house? It's no longer a makeshift bazaar. He became a monument. A building to celebrate human ingenuity, built with courage and adaptability. Living monument. In early February, the calendar turned to a new page. Ice society is still noisy. Confidence peaked. February 2nd, which is the day of the Holy Bamboo Festival, another giant bull is roasted on ice. It attracted thousands of people. Everything looks the same as before. But if you are sensitive enough, you start to notice subtle changes. The first is air. He is still cold, but no longer dry. The cold that stings your nose. There seems to be a hint of moisture in the air. A distant harbinger of spring. The sun is at noon. No longer the pale one. Powerless disk. His light seems to have a little temperature. Shine on your face. It gives you a long-lost warmth. Then the sound. You may not hear it in the hustle and bustle of the crowd during the day. But when the night is still, you happen to pass by the river, you will hear a muffled, constant attentiveness. The sound seemed to come from the deepest part of the ice, like the whole river, turning over restlessly in sleep. That's ice cubes under tremendous internal stress, squeeze each other, friction eagle. This condor was not available before. The most obvious changes took place after February 5th. You notice the ice is starting to sink. It's a very strange phenomenon. The ice didn't melt massively from the top. Instead, the entire ice sheet seems to be losing its welfare, slowly sinking into the water. The most obvious evidence is, every time the tide rises, the river will come up through cracks in the ice. Puddles in the street. The sight is very disturbing. Dust on ice that was rock solid just a few days ago. Now it has become a wet. The swamp of crisis private servers. The famous diarist John Evelyn, in the diary of February 5th, wrote such a contradictory sentence. Day starts to thaw. But it's frozen again. This sentence is accurate. Captured the unstable state of the weather during those days. Temperatures may rise above freezing during the day, causing some ice and snow to melt. But the cold night, it will make these melted waters freeze again. This recurring emotion, deadly damage to the ice's structure. Make it fragile and unstable. Despite this, the guts of Londoners seem limitless. On the morning of February 6th, when the ice has become visibly unsafe, someone still made a final. An ostentatious performance. A 6-horse carriage. Depart again from near the Day Palace. Speed all the way. Almost ran to London Bridge. It's like a farewell performance. Yes, this one. A final tribute to the fading Ice Avenue. February 6th afternoon, premonition becomes reality. The final run to him is faster than anyone imagined. Be spectacular. You are standing not far from the shore of Southwark. Suddenly there was a loud noise. That voice, louder than ever before. It's like the sky is falling apart. You see a large area of ice near the south shore. Suddenly the whole thing broke apart, turned over and disappeared into the surging river. In a few minutes. And there was an open space. Black waters. The next thing that really shocks you is, how many boats do you see? It has already started sliding in that water. The sight is like an unmistakable signal. Declared the death penalty for dust on ice. This time there is no more hesitation or luck. All those who remain on the ice, all fell into the most primitive panic. You are trapped in the crowd, running towards the nearest shore. Behind you is the awakening roar of the entire river. Huge blocks of ice collide with each other like battleships. Make a thunderous sound. Evacuation of traders turned into a catastrophic rout. They no longer attempt to disassemble the store completely. Instead, use an axe and a crowbar. Savage removal of planks and goods from on the frozen ice. And then drag it to the shore regardless. You see a lot of things that are too late to move. Devoured mercilessly by the river. A full tavern tent, along with the tables, chairs and wine barrels inside, into a huge ice hole. Disappeared in an instant. An abandoned sled. It's also full of goods. Squeezed by 2 huge ambushes. Instantly turned into a pile of pieces. Although the specific casualties of this thaw in 1684 were several times documented in detail. But we can start from ice extravaganzas and other years' thaw in the records of time. A glimpse of its great danger. Like when the ice pageant thawed in 1789. A huge block of ice dragged a boat moored on the shore. and the hair of the ship. It happened to be fixed in the cellar of a tavern on the shore. Result: the entire tavern was forcibly pulled from the foundation. 5 people were crushed to death under the rubble. You can imagine. And in 1684, this was even grander. In a more chaotic retreat scene, a similar tragedy must be unfolding. Come February 7th, it's all over now. You stand on the shore. Look at the sight of sores. Shattered ice is floating on the surface of the river. And all kinds of wreckage. Plank fabric. Broken clay pot. Even a lonely boot. The once glorious dust on ice. It's gone. The next day, even the wreckage and the reinforcements, mostly carried away by the tide, disappeared without a trace. You look at the Thai Samurai River flowing again. The river is still gray. But it was full of life. It was as if he had only been asleep for 2 months, had a bizarre dream. Now I'm awake. A world built on vulnerability and danger. In the end, his master used one of the most violent, the most unquestionable way to take it back. You got scared. But there is also a sense of relief. London finally came back to reality from that crazy dream. In the next few days, you come to the river every day, as if to confirm that the event is really over. The Thames has been restored to its former state. Ships come and go on the river. The boatman's cry sounded again. Everything seems to be back to the way it was before the ice. But you always feel like something is different. Look at this flowing river. Mind. But still the scene of the white plain. The dust on ice. Although it only existed for 2 short months, but it seems to be in the heart of every young person. Left a deep imprint. The sequelae of freezing can be seen everywhere in the world. You pass by parks and gardens, see many evergreen trees and rare plants, completely frozen to death by that harsh winter, turned into a withered yellow. Evelyn the diary writer, heartache recorded the rosemary in his garden, and the death of the laurel tree. Fish in the river and birds on both sides also died in large numbers. This natural wonder, for the ecosystem, it was an absolute disaster. Economic chaos also takes time to recover. The port reopened. Goods begin to circulate, prices are gradually falling. But those who went bankrupt in the cold winter, and artisans, it's hard for their lives to go back to the way they were. But more important than these physical losses, it's an intangible legacy. This ice festival, quickly from a social world, evolved into a cultural legend. You see in the bookstore in the city, start selling a variety of event-related souvenirs. One of the most popular. It was painted by order of the king. A panel painting depicting a panoramic view of the ice camp. People actually buy it and hang it in their homes. Show off to relatives and friends who were not able to be there in person. And those printed by George Crumb. Commemorative card with personal name. It is also regarded as a treasure by people. Became a family treasure that could be passed on to future generations. This event, it even spawns a completely unexpected one. Industries that have been passed down to this day. Do you remember those on the ice? A juggling class that provides entertainment, and there was an unremarkable clique, with some simple taming and acrobatics on the ice. Acting for a living. No one can imagine this experience of starting a business on ice. It was the starting point of their family business. This family, it became famous all over the world. Founder of the Chipperfield Circus. Yes, it still exists today. Historic circus. And his roots are down on the Tay Samurai in 1684. On the cold ice. From now on, the Great Ice Festival of 1683 to 1684 became an unsurpassed benchmark. In the years that followed, the Thai Samurai River froze a few more times. It has also held several ice fairs. But regardless of the scale, duration is still legendary. Can't compare to this time. He became part of the collective memory of Londoners. One is about tenacity. City myths of optimism and creativity. Whenever Londoners face difficulties, they may all remember their ancestors. Once in a frozen, on the dead river. Build a city full of laughter.